As we move on to the next ones, we need to have the three ratios handy. Write this down again or open up the notebook because you already wrote it down once. Have it handy, that way you know the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Because it comes up, we need to know these ratios. Okay, so let's look at number 7. First, identify what angle we have. We have this 55-degree angle. Now, if we look at this, the side across the 90-degree angle, this is the hypotenuse. I don't need to identify the hypotenuse because there's no number here, or there's no value there. But if we look at this side here, that side is 4 centimeters, and it's next to 55 degrees. It's next to that angle. Because it's next to that angle, I know that's the adjacent side, or the adjacent leg. And then this other leg is going to be the opposite leg because it's across the 55-degree angle. And again, this one has to be the hypotenuse. Now, since I have adjacent and opposite, I look at which ratio has the adjacent and the opposite side on there. It's this one. It's the tangent ratio. Okay. So then I set up my tangent ratio. I've set it up like this. Tangent of the 55-degree angle is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. See? Opposite divided by adjacent. Okay? Now watch what I do with this guy. I'm going to set it up as a proportion. Let me use a different color so you guys can see. I set it up as a proportion. And my variable is here. I can just cross multiply in this direction and divide. Just like the ones we were doing up here. Because this is just a number. Okay, watch, let me type it into my calculator. Remember, when you type this into the calculator, and we'll get this all in the same screen. When you type this into the calculator, make sure this is in degrees. It should say DEG somewhere. Okay, so if I wanted to solve this, I'm going to type in tangent of 55 degrees. You guys see how that parentheses opened up? You need to close the parentheses. Close the parentheses, multiply that by 4, and then you get 5.7, and then you divide it by 1. You actually don't need to divide by 1 because anything divided by 1 is the thing itself. But if we round this, this rounds to x equals 5.7. Okay, that's actually 5.7 centimeters. I'm going to leave my answer right now as 5.7 since that's all we're typing into the test. But 5.7. So let's look at number 9. Now that we have this here. So number 9, again, this is the angle we're using. This side over here is the hypotenuse. I am going to write down hypotenuse because it has a value there. And then this side is the opposite side. I know it's the opposite side because it's across the 50-degree angle. This one is next to it, so this would be the adjacent side. But again, I don't need to write adjacent because there's nothing here. So then if I look at my 3 trig ratios, opposite hypotenuse, here it is here. Here it is here. Opposite hypotenuse. Okay, so I know that's the sine function, or the sine, that's the sine ratio. Okay, so I write it out like this. Sine of 50 degrees is equal to, that's opposite on top, hypotenuse on the bottom. Opposite on top, hypotenuse on the bottom. Okay, and then write it as a proportion. So basically just put a 1 under there. And then here's the variable, so I'm going to cross multiply these two and divide by 1. And we won't always be dividing by 1. Sometimes it's an actual number there. But for now, that just happens to be 1. So watch. Sine of 50 degrees. Remember, close the parentheses. If you don't close this, it's going to be wrong. And then times 15. Times 15. You get that value, take that and divide it by 1. It doesn't change it. It's still 11.5 actually. So then that's 11.5. Okay. We're going to go back up to the top and do the other ones. But again, the first thing you have to get used to is saying this. Hey, that's the angle. This side is the adjacent side. This side is the opposite. Again, it's the opposite because I know this is the hypotenuse, but I'm not going to write anything there because I don't have no value here. Again, watch. This is the angle. This side is next to 62 degrees. Because it's next to 62 degrees, I know it's the adjacent side. This side is across 62 degrees. Because it's across 62 degrees, I know it's the opposite side. And then, of course, this would be the hypotenuse. Now, if we look at our trig ratios, I'm not going to put it up again, but opposite, adjacent, both of these are the same, and it's actually tangent. So tangent of 35 degrees is equal to the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the adjacent side. For number 9, it would look like this. Tangent of 62 degrees is equal to the length of the opposite side divided by the length of the adjacent side. Opposite, adjacent. And then we solve both of these. And solving them, it's easy. Put a 1 under it. Put a 1 under it. Find the x. Cross multiply so the x isn't in there. And divide by 1. So let me solve this one real quick. This one is going to be tangent of 35 degrees. If you don't close the parentheses, it's going to be wrong. Times 20. I'm not going to divide by 1 again. So that one would just be 14.0. Okay. I put the 1 under it. Here's the letter. Now watch this one. This one's going to be tricky. Because when we cross multiply this way, that means this is on the outside. We're going to divide by that. So watch what it looks like. We know 1 times 10 is 10. I'll go ahead and type it in here just so you guys can see that. So then it's 10 divided by tangent of 62 degrees. 10 divided by tangent of 62 degrees. Close the parentheses. And you get 5.3. So be careful. You're multiplying by the two numbers inside the circle and you're dividing by the number that's outside. This is just the number. Okay? It's easier to leave it this way and not type it into the calculator and get some big long decimal, but it's just the number.